Well, hello and welcome back to Conan Exiles. This is the next episode in the line that we were looking at with the basics of the game. If you remember in my last video, the tips and tricks for beginners, I briefly mentioned how that we would talk about combat basics a little bit more in the next video, where I just kind of show you some of the enemies you'll come up against early game, so what they look like, give you an idea of the health, and show you sort of how they fight so that you can sort of master the basics of combat very early on. It does get different as you get further up into the game. Obviously enemies get tougher, but the very first ones, as you can tell, are these little guys that you can see running around behind me, and these are imps, and these are more than likely the first enemy you'll run into, and they will attack straight away. Some of them do actually explode as well if you're not careful. They won't necessarily one-shot you, but it can hurt quite a bit, so just be wary. But where I am just here is a little cave, which you can also go into to farm crystal from, and there's also a boss in there that you can take down later in game for some useful pieces as well. Not going to go into that in this video, but all along Noob River there are little spots here where you can run into these guys. You may not run into them if you happen to come a certain way where you manage to get from your start location and down onto here and get to where we showed you last time without running into them, but we're classing these as the first one because it's highly likely that you will run into them. So let's have a look how they work. Right, so here we go. You can see there's one aggro to me and he's running at me. I'll let them hit me a minute just so you can kind of see how they hit me. They're not going to do me any health damage because I am using admin mode just for the sake of this video, but as you can see they will try and slap you. None of these guys are doing me any explosive damage, because at least these guys will not explode. Try not to take too many on at once though, because they can hurt if you're not careful, but they should, just like any other enemy, if you do the heavy attack with your daggers on them, you'll be able to stack bleed on them and take them out. Typically you'll only take one on at a time. As you can see, I've already run out of stamina there by overdoing it. These guys are usually roaming around a little bit. Like I said, you'll probably only find yourself taking on an odd one, but just watch out for certain ones that are slightly different, yellowy orange in colour, because as they run at you they will explode, and like I say, they could do you a fair little bit of damage if you're not careful. But just so you know, just to show this little cave, these are all imps in here. There you go, Hanneman's Grotto. This is another late game thing I don't recommend. Again, apart from taking out the imps and farming a bit of crystal, don't do this too early, but we'll come back to that in a future video. So that is where we are just now, and that is the first little enemy that you'll encounter that are aggressive straight away. Now your next enemies that you encounter are kind of enemies, but they're also kind of passive, and that's the shaleback turtle looking creatures that we saw last time. So let's have a look at them. Right, so here we go. These are the what I call shaleback in the game, and as you can see there's one laying down here. As soon as I come out of creative mode, this one will probably aggro. Majority of these will not attack you. They are passive if you leave them alone. They tend to be a lot of the ones that you'll see, like those back there that are just walking around. They will, however, if one of these aggressive ones that are a slightly different colour, if they get up and start attacking you, because they will attack because they're more sort of defensive in their nature, these non-aggressive ones will join in as well, so you will find yourself with a bit of a fight on your hands. But as you can see there, they'll hiss and they'll stand up, and then they'll try and attack you straight away. It'd help if I pull out a weapon, wouldn't it? But if you do, just like we said last time, just stack some bleed on them. Let you show their attacks again. As you can see, they'll do a swipe attack, they'll do a hiss and then potentially bleed out. Come on, are you going to do something? Or are you just going to stand there? They might glitch out like this if you're lucky, which if they do, then obviously just keep popping your bleed on them with your stone daggers, watch the health drain down, and they'll just die out, and then you can harvest them. But it's usually a case of those aggressive ones will attack you. They will do a couple of different attacks. I'll see if I can get this friendly guy to do it for us. But as you can see, they don't attack me till I hit him. Now he's going to attack. They'll do that one, which will do you a little bit of damage early on, and they'll do a swipe attack. So pretty basic really. swipe attack, they'll do the hiss, and then they'll obviously do the big two-handed Hulk smash, as I call it, which again, early game isn't going to do you too much damage, but just be wary if you're only wearing basic gear again as well, that it will hurt, just not a lot, depending on the difficulty you're playing on. If you're playing on barbaric difficulty, then that slap will hurt a little bit more than it will on normal difficulty, so just be careful. Just do as you've seen me doing, sort of go up to one, hit them, dance around a little bit, redo your stamina, let them do a swipe, hit them again. Fairly easy to take on, fairly easy early game, and also they're a good source of hide if you skin them with your skinning knife, but if you chop them up with a pick or a hatchet, then they're also a really good source of meat for you to eat early game. So that is your second enemy. Now your next two coming up kind of get a little more aggressive than these, certainly potentially do a lot more damage than these, and their particular attack patterns are slightly different. And what we're talking about there is crocodiles and then hyenas. So let's have a look at the crocodiles. There you go, you just see one walking out the screen there. If I look around again, yeah, glitching out like crazy, which isn't great, which they're not supposed to do, but as you can see with their health bar there the amount of health they have. Oops, wrong button. If I come out of that, he should now aggro. And as you see, crocodiles will always aggro straight away. They'll do a snap attack. That's pretty much their only attack that they will do, but that will do you a fair bit of damage if you're not careful. I'll just stand here a minute, let him do that, and then he'll chase you, and then they'll do a lunge attack as well. So if you stood still, they'll snap at you, and every now and again they'll chase you for a distance, and then they'll do a lunge attack. But again, if you monitor your stamina, you can do a couple of bleeds, run around, recharge your stamina, let him do his lunge attack, put another bleed on him. Like I say, monitor your stamina constantly, you'll be fine no matter what difficulty you're on. I do use the lock on just to help a little bit. Some people don't like to use lock on. For me, for PlayStation, that's the R3 right toggle stick, but again, do a couple of bleeds, you can see his health ticking down, try and dodge some attacks, and eventually they'll just bleed out. Again, you can skin these guys for some reptile hide, which you can convert into regular hide or into leather. Really helpful resource again. Don't really recommend eating the meat from these, it's not really beneficial to you. Won't do you any harm, but it's not as beneficial as the savoury that you get from the shellbacks and the gazelles. But definitely skin these guys early game for your hides. Now there are bigger versions of these, and I'll show you that at the end, what one of the boss ones looks like and how their attacks work. We won't kill it completely, I'll just show you how it works. But there are boss crocodiles which are massive compared to this guy, and their attacks are a little bit different. But in early game, that is your crocodiles. And then this brings us to our last, fourth, final enemy for early game sort of enemies that you'll face really on a Noob River, and that's your hyenas. As you can see, there are two here feasting on the corpse. There is another one that is usually a little further over there just on its own. These will aggro again straight away, as you'll see as soon as I attack this one. That's the health that they have. You can also, just as you can with the crocodiles, get a one skull crocodile. Same with the hyenas, you get a one skull which is a slightly different colour, slightly bigger than these. Same with the shellbacks as well, I forgot to mention that one. But they will be slightly different colours, slightly bigger than the regular ones. They'll have more brighter blue coloured eyes. They'll have their health bar and they'll have a little skull just under it. So hyenas, if I come out of creative, as you'll see, he'll run at me and start doing his biting attack. These guys will hunt in packs, so if you aggro those as well, you'll get those involved. But as you can see, once again, they will literally just keep biting at you until they kill you. But you can just do exactly the same again with your stone daggers, which is why these are so OP. But again, monitor your stamina, let them do a little lunge, get a couple of cheeky hits on them, just keep dodging that bite attack. And once again, another creature that you can skin for meat, but again, ignore the meat, skin them merely for the hyena pelt, which again can be turned into leather, or you can keep for certain armor sets which may require hyena pelt. So just to show you the difference, if you get to an area where there are a few, this is 2 of them. One of these can sometimes be a 1 skull if it's the 2 of them. So you'll have a little bit more of a task on you, where you'll want to try and ideally not take on 2 at once, but if you have to do, try and get a bit of bleed on one, dance around, try and get them to split a little bit. It's a little bit more tricky. If you have to just run away, just run away. But as you can see there, I was able to get a cheeky little hit on them both. Try not to take too many hits if you can, because the hyena bite does hurt pretty hard, especially on barbaric if you play on the hardest difficulty. And as you can see, without a 1, just keep stacking your bleed and you'll be able to take them out. But just be very, very careful, because these guys do hunt in packs, especially as you go further over in this area. Excuse me, round about here and around here as you're heading excuse me, towards the south of the unnamed city. You can aggro quite a few and you would potentially get in trouble, especially if you're doing a nomad barbaric run where if you die, that's it, you die. So be very, very careful. But that is the basics of the main enemies that you're likely to encounter down here on Noob River in early game. There are other things like rock donkeys, as they're called, which we'll look at in the future, which you start to encounter as you start to venture a little higher up here. And again, they have a little more health, just like hyenas. The higher up in the map you go, the harder the enemies get to kill, but we'll look at them next time. But they're your very basic ones that you will encounter early on in the game. Okay, and just before we wrap this one up, as I said, I will show you one of the boss crocodiles. This is one of the 3 skull boss crocodiles that you can fight on the map. There are actually 4, maybe 5 all around the map in total, possibly more than that, but this is one early game. It has quite a bit of health, nearly killed me doing my barbaric run, did knock my follower down and I had to run away. Didn't realise at the time that it literally had minuscule health left and I could have killed it, but didn't want to risk it, because if I'd have died, that'd have been it, challenge over. But as you can see, as I say, 3 skull, quite a big health bar, very glitchy, as a lot of the bosses are at the moment. But again, this guy hits pretty hard. And for where we are on the map is just here on this little lake, just in G4 more or less. There is another one in a cave a little bit further up here that you have to kill for part of your Scourge Stone, which again is something we'll look at in the future. We've looked at it in the past as well. Not quite as high a health, but still can hurt pretty hard, and there's a lot of crocodiles in that cave with it as well. But this is one of your, what I'm going to call, open world bosses. If I come out of creative, still hasn't seen me yet. Oi! But as you'll see with this one, they'll do the growl, tail will go up in the end, do what they call a tail swipe 3 times. Avoid that, because if you get hit by that, that will hurt. They'll do a lunge attack, which that bite can hurt a heck of a lot as well. As you can see, it's been quite glitchy and quite slow. Don't know if this will be the same for you, but this has been quite glitchy for me for some reason. It'll do that lunge attack at you, which will take quite a bit of health off you. If you're a bit further away from him or her, they'll try and do a lunge attack. If there's babies around, they'll come and join in as well. I say babies, but regular ads, as we call them in a lot of games. But as you can see, does the lunge attack. But just like any boss in the game, if I have the right thing on, it would help. Yeah, I recommend going around this lake first and taking out all these regular crocodiles before you take this boss on. But just as any other creature in the game, you can apply the bleed to them and keep watching the bleed tick them down. But don't take this on too early, because it will more than likely kill you very easily. We'll just come out of that a minute so we can reset. But yeah, this is one of your first world bosses, or how to look out for them. So until you're a decent level with decent armour, not necessarily endgame armour, but decent at least, and some decent daggers, ideally iron, maybe steel even, or if you've managed to pick up any perfected stuff from anywhere, that will help you out a lot, because these guys can hurt, especially on the hardest difficulty. So that's one of your world bosses, just to give you an idea to look out for. Avoid this one too early in game. Right, so there you have it guys, just another very quick one just to kind of point out the first sorts of enemies that you'll encounter in Conan Exiles down on Noob River, and kind of how their attacks work, and some suggestions of how to go about attacking them if you have to do. So I hope you found that one useful, hope you found it helpful. If you did, leave your comments and your questions down below, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and yes, little teaser in the background here for a future video coming up, so if you want to know what this one's all about, again, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and until I see you in the next one, it's bye bye for now.